Hi guys, welcome back. Lovely to see you.
Hi guys.
We're not in a loft again. We're actually in Dan's house.
Yes.
His humble abode, which is called
King James's barn, because it's a barn.
How cool is that?
Yeah.
So because we're in a barn, we thought we should do something traditional. Where's my wine? Yes, look. A lovely little Pinot here.
Yeah.
And I said Pinot, nothing else.
So we're doing our 5 favourite Fougeres. And in our classic format, 5 is actually going to become 10 because we've decided to bring 5 of our favourite Fougeres each.
Plus some extras for good luck.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, we've got some backups. So what is a Fougere? So a Fougere is a fragrance family. It's become known as a male fragrance family.
Yes.
It means fern-like.
Yeah, which is an interesting thing, isn't it? Because ferns don't really have a smell.
Exactly. So it's an abstract idea, and the more we looked into this, we realised you've got quite a lot to play with. So traditionally, it's one of the oldest kind of fragrance families, if you like, and it goes back to Houblon's Fougere Royale, which is about 1885, isn't it?
Yes, just before Guerlain became.
Which is one of the one of the first examples of a fragrance using a synthetic note. So it's using coumarin, which is synthetic tonka bean, and originally a Fougere was lavender on the top, with oak moss.
Yeah, you'd have a mossy base, and then that coumarin would give you. If you think tonka bean, think vanillic.
Yeah, a bit of creamy warmth. So that's your kind of traditional ingredients, but we're not sticking to that. The other thing, so now when you first say Fougere to me, I think of a barbershop-y kind of lavendery smell. So a hint of shaving foam. I think that's what you really think of, or it's what I really think of when I say Fougere. But actually, if you're sticking to the term Fougere as fern-like, I think you've got more options.
Absolutely.
And I think, that's what I've done with our 5 choices here. Anyway, should we stop?
Let's see what we've got and smell them, and hopefully some of these will be different from each other, because we both have such great similar tastes.
Okay, so we mentioned Fougere Royale that were there briefly. So the next big famous release after that was Guerlain's Jiki, which in a way I prefer as a fragrance, because Fougere Royale was completely reformulated quite
recently by Roger Dove.
Yeah, and so it doesn't bear a huge amount of relation to what it originally smelled like, whereas Jiki does. I haven't chosen Jiki as my first fragrance. I've chosen Mouchoir de Monsieur by Guerlain. So Jiki was released in, was it 1888?
Around that, 88, 89.
Designed by Amy Guerlain. This came about 10 years later, 15 years later?
1904.
1904 or 5. And this is by Jacques Guerlain. And so this is his male equivalent of Jiki, if you like, although I think Jiki is completely unisex. So this is one of my absolute favourite fragrances.
Let's get it out.
It's taken. It's very. If you're familiar with Jiki, this is along similar lines. There's just a little bit more sharpness to this.
Yeah.
And also, I think the civet note is a little bit more pronounced in here. But essentially, what you get is just the most beautiful, breathtaking lavender. You're just getting this real formula of lavender on top of some herbal notes with really rich coumarin base, really creamy, hugging, seductive vanilla at the bottom, tonka bean at the bottom of that.
Yeah, and it's sort of wonderfully human again. It smells like. Yeah. If I were a man at the turn of the century, I would love smelling this on myself, on another woman. It smells like skin.
For me, and also it really evokes this kind of Belle Epoque kind of glamour. Or it's quite dandified. I'm just getting this big wave of lavender coming away from you there.
And it smells wonderfully traditional as well.
Yeah.
It instantly makes you appreciate the last 100 years of perfumery.
Absolutely, yeah.
You think I'm linked in some way to the past, without smelling at all dated. I think it doesn't.
I don't think it does smell dated. It's interesting because when we are thinking of compiling the list, there are lots of these big 80s powerhouse Fougeres, which in a way can feel a little bit more dated, perhaps because they're a bit more oak moss heavy. Don't think there's much oak moss.
It's not massively mossy, is it?
Not at all, really. And so it's got a bit of a lighter, kind of fresher feel. I can imagine some people might find the civet note in this challenging, but I absolutely love it. It makes you feel cuddly, sexy, warm, gorgeous.
And I don't know if this is true, but was it not Jacques Galin who said that there are only 2 great Fougeres in the world, Jiki and Mouchoir.
Very possibly.
Everything else is for smelly truckers. Something like that. I can't remember the exact quote.
Well, there you go. So that is my first choice, Mouchoir de Monsieur.
Good choice.
From Guerlain. Right, what's your first?
Let me look in my case of tricks here. On a similar theme, in fact, we have this. Ta-da!
What is it?
Special for Gentlemen by Le Gallion. Yeah. Now, this thing is inspired, interestingly, by Jiki and by Monsieur. So we have the same. We basically have the same elements at play here. We have the bright bergamot, we have the civet, we have the resins. Give that a spritz.
So we should say we haven't planned this video at all. So we have allowed for the fact that we might choose.
We may well have the same fragrances.
And it's interesting. I first came across this fragrance because I looked online at what people said suggested as fragrances similar to Mouchoir de Monsieur.
Yes.
And I mean, it really is. You're getting that lavender, you're getting that kind of that herbal. It's just a little bit more resinous.
Yes,
I think
it leans more, I would say, into an Oriental direction, but it's still a Fougere in its spirit.
Yeah, I still, for me, it's still the lavender, which is the first thing that beautifully.
It does hit you, doesn't it?
And it's just so. It smells so classy. It's. And if you want to walk around in a suit and tie or a DJ or a white tie occasion, it just smells incredibly classy. In a way, I would say because it has slightly less of the civet note, it might be a little bit more accessible. So if you really like Mouchoir de Monsieur, but found that civet note tough, really try Special for Gentlemen.
And if you like these little Art Deco bottles, have a look at that. It's very beautiful. I find with this, it's very comforting as well. When I first sprayed it, I wasn't a huge fan, I have to say, because I love Jiki and Mouchoir so much.
It's really
now I'm really coming around to it.
Yeah.
And there's a dryness to it, and there's a herbaceousness which I enjoy as well.
Just a tiny bit more resin as well.
Yeah. That's it. When it dries down, I think it goes into a more creamy direction, and it loses a bit of that turn of the century sharpness.
Yeah. Beautiful. Right. What am I going to go for next? Right. So I mentioned 80s powerhouses, and we can't talk about 80s powerhouse Fougeres without talking about Azzaro pour homme. So I've got this absolutely enormous 200ml bottle. So that is, I mean, there's lavender, but it's really the kind of the oak moss and the aniseed, which are the big kind of big players in that. Really. It doesn't. Having criticised 80s kind of powerhouses, it now
you can't go
makes me think of. But that opening smell is so bracing, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely fantastic. It instantly switches on your brain.
Yeah.
For me, I get this wonderful image of coming out of a German street barber's, having had a shave and a cut, and I'm heading for the city to do $1 million deals.
See, this is when we spoke about barbershop scents. This is freshly shaven. As obviously I am frequently, but it smells classy, it smells elegant, and also just if we're talking about prices a little bit. I mean, Special for Gentlemen is almost twice the price of Mouchoir de Monsieur. This is about half the price of Mouchoir de Monsieur.
It's incredible, isn't it? The value for that, I would happily pay 3 times the price.
Yeah.
I mean, you can get this for like £20-30.
Yeah. I mean, I paid about 35, 40 something for this 200ml. This was in our top 10 cheapies, wasn't it? I think.
Yes.
Yeah, because it's incredible value for money. It's a 5-star.
Can I spray a little on my skin?
Yeah, go for it.
I just want to see how this thing. Let's do it on the hand there, maybe. I want to see how this thing goes. I'm in a Fuji mood today, which is handy.
Yeah.
But I feel like I need to wear some.
Good thing for it.
Oh.
Yeah.
See, on the skin. On the skin, it's so energetic. You can feel the molecules bouncing off each other. It's actually, I feel playful.
Maybe I talked it down a little bit by saying it's old school. Actually, it smells so invigorating. It smells classy.
I don't find it at all old school.
A lot more oak moss than the last two, so maybe a bit more true to that original Fujio format. But absolutely gorgeous stuff.
Oh, wow.
Right, what's your number 2?
What's next? God, it's such a tricky one.
I'm going to drink some wine while you choose.
I think for my number 2, sticking with the house that started it all off, a Fougere, which in a sense is a story of, this bad boy.
Oh, yeah.
It's a story of, this is Derby, It's a story of resurrection, because this was once upon a time a leather Chypre, and in its modern incarnation, I think it's now a Fougere. It's green, it's herbaceous.
Ah, that's really interesting, yeah.
And it's the moss in the base is the big player in this, whereas before it really was a leather Chypre.
Yeah.
Do we have a fresh card
here? Absolutely, we certainly do.
There you go.
That's the interesting about this Fougere genre, because I would never think Derby Fougere at all, but I know exactly what you mean, because there's a lot of floral elements to this, and if you're thinking about fern, maybe kind of woodland, walking through a forest, thinking about a forest floor,
that's what I get in there.
Yeah,
and it's got all of the requisites. It has the lavender. It has the coumarin. It has the oak moss.
Yeah.
And I think because they've lightened it up, they've turned it into more of a barbershop.
It's so weird as well. Actually, now we're smelling it amongst all these fragrances. It does feel. I completely understand what you mean by kind of Fougere. When you first put it out, I was like, oh, I'm not sure, but it really does.
And Guerlain themselves now describe it as in Fougere family.
Really?
So I think even they've moved away from that. I mean, really, this once upon a time, this was in the realms of Mitsuko and those romantic Chypres and. Yeah. Lightening it up, in fact, is if we call lightening up making it more for the modern man and more on trend, as they say. Yeah. What they've actually done is harken back even further.
Yeah.
So it's interesting.
Yeah.
They've made it more traditional than it may otherwise have been.
I mean, I hope this makes you think as much as it has us, because it really does.
Oh, it's so interesting.
Okay, in which case, so I've got a few options. I hadn't quite decided on my 5, but I'm going to go in a vaguely similar direction. I'm now going to go with Mem by Boga, which is a small Italian niche company. So this is a bit more expensive. This is £140 for this little 50ml bottle. This is definitely in the top 2 or 3 fragrances I own in terms of quality. In terms of a lavender scent, I've never encountered a lavender which smells as good as this.
No.
I think he uses multiple types.
There can't be many that compare to this.
Also you kind of look at this colour, that deep, rich colour. He's well known for using really very, very, very high quality natural ingredients. Oh my God, just the lavender. The lavender in there is just sensational, and this fragrance, when you wear it, it kind of changes a bit every time I wear it. It always starts with this swimming whirlwind kaleidoscope of lavender. Lots of people describe this fragrance as kaleidoscopic.
It's absolutely enormous, and it's not one lavender.
No, it's just it's dry, it's fresh, it's juicy, you get so much there.
That's so far removed from a sort of bog standard little lavender freshie, isn't it? It's so wonderful.
But what it is not barbershop-y, I wouldn't say.
No, but in a sort of in an oriental slant again, with the richness of its ingredients.
Well, the thing is, because I wonder if this.
But with the origins.
I think people could say this strays into a kind of Chypre territory. In the mid, it's got florals and it's also got some animalics. But for me, it does conjure up. I bought this shortly after walking around a lavender farm. And just when you're in this, if you follow us on Instagram, there's pictures of me in this lavender farm. And if you're just walking around with this swathes of lavender, the smell which kind of gets in your legs and your hair and on your clothes, it's just absolutely beautiful.
Intoxicating, isn't it?
And that's I think that makes it fern-like. I know lavender isn't fern, but for me that is fern-like, and that is why I'm putting this in my top 5.
And remember, fern, as we said. Fern it doesn't have a smell. It's an imagined smell.
Yeah.
So it really just needs your imagination. And we have to say, with fragrance regulations as they are now, the use of oak moss and things like that is all restricted and synthetic and changed. Yeah. So it's really about the inspiration. It's about the spirit rather than the letter.
Yeah,
I think that is absolutely stunning.
I think we might spend more time on this at some point, because as I say,
we need to do a proper
it's my real top 2 or 3 fragrances. It's absolutely incredible. Anyway, I could smell it for the next half an hour, but let's do some more Fougeres. Where's your?
So how many have I done? I've done 2.
You've done 2.
So number 3. Okay, I'm taking a slight detour here.
He's just delving around in his sack.
And we have 1725.
Oh yeah.
By Histoire de Parfum, which is Casanova.
You say detour.
Not really a detour.
Yeah.
But, a detour from the things which are the slightly bolder Fougeres and the slightly more avant-garde things to something it's unashamedly retro in that sense. There we go. There's the bottle. Lovely little bottle. It's been cut in half, sadly. Give yourself a spritz of that. I think this is a very special
we keep talking about this barbershop-y smell, and this is real classy barbershop.
That's the traditional aspect of it, I think.
Yeah. You get a little bit more kind of bergamot in this, and a kind of brightness and lightness.
Yeah. The bergamot, I think, is done really nicely in the opening of this, and it's bright and shiny.
My wife's just telling me something.
Leo's here.
Oh, right, okay.
Leo's here.
Are you here on time? Still chatting?
Yeah, still chatting for a bit.
Okay. Right.
He should come and smell these things after.
Okay.
The wonderful manners.
Yeah, but we're going to carry on. Okay. Yeah, exactly. There's a bit more kind of brightness and almost a bit of kind of sweetness to this as well.
Well, that's interesting because the sweetness is already starting to show from the almond note, which is kind of quite an unusual slant on one of these Fougere style things, but it just gives it a little marzipanish.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah. But it's interesting when we talk about, we've said that a Fougere often includes oak moss, which creates this feeling of darkness. Yeah. This doesn't have that at all.
No.
I mean, I don't know if it lists oak moss. No.
I think there's a bit of a mossy note there, but it's not huge. It's more about the fresh,
beautiful,
bracing,
elegant
cut grass.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Lovely stuff.
And I love the house. I think they do some great things.
Yeah, really good quality.
To do something like this, which is unashamedly retro Fougere barbershop, and then do something like petroleum,
absolutely,
and ambrorum and things like that, which are enormous. You know, if you could bottle the smell of a house fire,
and again, this is so clean and bright and fresh as opposed to Marquis de Sade, which is so dark and dirty and cuminy
huge smelly
and leathery.
immortelle note.
Yeah.
So I think it's worth a shout, isn't it, for barbershops?
Right. So my fourth one. Okay, I'm going to go. This might be my most surprising one. So
wow, that's a good option.
So surprisingly, in the category of Fougere, I'm going for the House of Amouage, and I'm going for Memoir Man. Now this. Oh God, I haven't worn this for a while, but this is so
straight out of the bottle. That's good.
And because this makes me think of a gloomy forest floor, because you've got this. Although it does have that amouage incense and there are more resins going on, it's the wormwood and the mint in this, which make me think of a gloomy forest floor. Oh, I really must wear this more. And in some way, although it doesn't feel like a barbershop-y Fougere, it does have a bit of that feel.
It does. It really does.
It's not quite as heavy or thick as obviously something like Interlude.
I mean, it has the spirit of that fresh dark. It's a slightly Jekyll and Hyde thing, isn't it? And it's so austere, but actually fun as well, if that's possible.
Yeah.
It's fun. It makes me happy to smell it.
But I think as you smell it, it could lead you on a dark journey.
Yeah.
Or but it's got quite a lot of brightness and energy to it. So if you just smell it from afar, you maybe just get the brightness, bit of mint, bit of wormwood, bit of fizzy incense. Whereas the more time you spend with it, I think the wormwood overrides the mint and it becomes darker and gloomier and moodier.
So, I mean, not a million miles away from something like Undergrowth, which we've talked about recently.
Which is one of my
forest floor.
Yeah.
And when you think forest floor, I think moss. I think oak moss.
And that's why I think it's Fuji.
Yeah. God, that's bloody good, isn't it?
Yeah.
I'd really forgotten about that.
Well, there you go.
God.
So that is my number 4 Fougere. It is Memoir Man from the House of Amouage. What is your number 4?
Number 4. I've got 2 options now because I have doubled up with you on one. So that's going to be an honourable mention. Mouchoir.
Oh, okay, so you chose that as well.
Interestingly, this is a 10-year-old bottle, so we can compare.
Oh, right, yeah.
Side by side. So I think the old favourite has to come out.
Yeah.
The GIT. I have to say, I'm still in love with it as a spring fresh thing, but it is a Fougere. It's the thing that inspired Cool Water.
I mean, I think most people will completely agree this is Fougere because it smells green, it smells like spring, but there's no lavender. I don't think.
No, there's
no
lemon
oak
verbena
moss,
violet.
no coumarin, so it doesn't, it doesn't apply to that formula.
It's the spirit of it is that.
But it smells so green. It smells like walking through. What smells like walking through an Irish field? In spring, maybe it's just been raining. I mean, I don't think we need to talk too much about this fragrance.
We know it. We love it. I don't love Creed as much as I used to, but I still love this.
But the more and more. Yeah, as I say, I have a few problems with Creed as a house.
Yeah, me too.
Not least that they lie about their heritage. But I don't know. I think this is possibly my favourite from the house.
It still does the trick.
Yeah.
And I have a fresh barbershop experience.
Yeah.
Put some of that on.
Yeah.
Fougere Central.
Yeah.
I think, although it's not the best of the Fougeres we're smelling here by any stretch.
There's a place for it.
It has its place. On the shelf.
So I think
number 5. This is a toppie.
Okay. All right. Okay. I've got a few options. But
We've still got honourable mentions. Don't forget.
Yes.
So we can.
I've got something which we've just reviewed, and since we've reviewed it, I've worn it more and more, and really grown to love it. It is Paisley by G.O.F. Trumper.
Masterpiece.
I'm going to put some of this on my wrist, and as we said in the review. So G.O.F. Trumper is a traditional British barbershop house, and off first spray you get a real barbershop feel, a real shaving foam feel, which if you ever have the chance to go into G.O.F. Trumper, beautiful shop, there are lots of people having their hair cut and getting shave, and it really gives you that image straight away. But there is more to this fragrance than just that, especially the kind of the spearmint in it, which starts
it's so good
to come through.
It's developed in the bottle since I last smelled it as well.
I think it has.
The spearmint's taken on a lot more depth.
Yeah, and especially last time, I get that, especially in the dry down, the cardamom becomes so prominent. And I think it's brilliant because it feels, on first spray, and maybe from a distance, you think this is absolute textbook, classic British barbershop fougere, but there is more to it. There's also this modern feel because of the mint.
Very modern.
And the cardamom makes it more interesting, and the dry down is very, very sexy. Definitely must be coumarin in the dry down to this.
Nice to see that they've been inspired by the form, but actually not bound by it.
I think it's so difficult to do something which is, on one hand, so traditional, but yet so modern. There's a real modern feel to it.
And like we said the other day, they've not done anything for about 16 years.
Yeah.
So that, they're not churning out stuff every day.
I really, really like this.
Oh, it's fantastic. I really wish you could smell on the other side of the camera. The mint just takes it in such a bracing, first thing in the morning, energised.
And with the aniseed and the cardamom, love it. Paisley from G.O.F. Trumper. Check it out, it's really good. And this is 50 quid for 50 ml.
You can't go wrong with
lovely little dinky bottle. Just give it a shot.
So number 5 for me. Is it number 5?
Yeah, last one.
Right, there are 2 in here now, and I think there's a clear winner for me. Hold your nose. Hold your nose. I mean, this thing here.
I'm going to drink my wine to refresh myself.
This thing here.
Oh, yeah.
This is
interesting. Yeah.
This is a smelly little bugger. I used to wear this a lot.
I haven't tried this for years.
This was my fragrance in the mid-90s.
Go on.
You might want to have some of that on your skin, I think.
Yeah.
I mean, it's urinal cakes, lavender. It's a bolshy thing, even in the reformulated version. But it is so true to the form.
It is fierce. It is manly. I mean, that is man in a bottle, isn't
it? Absolutely.
Yeah, of all, people who know this, you will know it. It's very well known. It's a big fragrance. It's a big, manly, bold fragrance, which is so interesting because if you think, if we talked about these light lavender, herbaceous things, things like Mouchoir de Monsieur or Special for Gentlemen. This is which are quite polite, even though the animalics in Mouchoir de Monsieur. This is not polite. This is in your face, rough and tumble,
absolutely,
wrestling in the bathroom.
This is the modern stuff.
Oh, yeah,
but I remember when this thing was sort of full of civet and had a wonderful pissy quality. But there's moss in the dry down, which rounds it out beautifully. Someone once commented that this is like a couple who are so comfortable with each other they leave the door open to the bathroom when they're using the loo. And it is that, but it's so much more than that.
But it's rough and tumble in the bushes. It still has that fern-like.
It's still
quality.
a fern. It's still green.
It's still a fougere.
And it's dirty and clean at the same time, which I love.
Yeah, absolutely.
From a distance, kind of clean. close up, you get the skank.
Yeah, it's interesting. I mean, I never would have. I never would have thought that, but I completely agree with you. And the same with Derby, I never would have thought that, but I completely agree with you.
They've modernised them. Maybe once upon a time this would have been a huge sheep rare. I don't know, back in the 80s. 1981 was when this thing came out. It's still going strong.
So there you go.
So we have some honourable mentions, perhaps.
Oh, we go. So that was our 5 favourite, which was actually 10. So what else did you bring with you?
You go first.
I mean, it's incredible I haven't mentioned this because most people have smelt this. One of my biggest regrets in my purchasing was only buying a 30ml bottle of New York by Patricia de Nicola. I don't know what I was thinking because 30ml is simply not enough. This is absolutely extraordinary stuff.
We need to get you that.
And again, I bought this because I looked up Mouchoir de Monsieur and I looked up comparisons, and we often lament what has happened to Guerlain since LVMH has taken over, and we further lament the fact that Patricia de Nicola hasn't, because she is the heiress. She's the great granddaughter of
Jacques Guerlain.
Yeah.
She'd be the natural
successor.
Persons to run that person.
And the fragrances she's producing are absolutely of extraordinary quality, and I think really true to the Guerlain heritage. And this is a real lavender, tonka bean, beautiful, herbaceous.
And this thing could quite easily be the pinnacle of Guerlain's current crop. Or if you like, Bois de Portugal by Creed, another one I thought about bringing but didn't actually.
It's just got a little bit more brightness and kind of fizz, perhaps, than Mouchoir de Monsieur. Maybe feels a little bit more modern. Anyway, but this isn't on our top 10. So
these are things. I've only got one more because obviously Mouchoir. So we've got that. Obviously, I've brought Mouchoir as well. See if this compares to the other one. That's because that's from 2007. So it's taken on more sourness, maybe.
Yeah,
it shouldn't be a million miles away, of course. But it's
so what was your one more? Was your one other?
One more is a Baroque Fougere, which all of these 80s and 70s things are, which is an old favourite for me. Havana by Aramis, which is again of the sort of genre of Kouros and Azzaro, but a little bit of tobacco.
Yeah.
It's quite simple, but actually...
But it's well in that.
The more I wear it, the more I enjoy it.
It's got a significant place in kind of male fragrance history, hasn't it? It really has.
Get yourself the Aramis collection, you've got one of every genre, really.
So true to our form, so our 5 favourite Fougeres has actually become 12.
Yes.
Right, so...
More rather than less. What can we say about Fougeres then?
Well, I think we've said lots. If you had...
Don't try them?
If you had to live... If you could only keep one out of all of these 12...
Out of all of the 12, including yours, yes. I think combining everything, including cost, wearability, possibly Azzaro.
Really interesting.
But for sheer quality and bowling me over, Mem.
Yeah.
I think for me.
I would say I would say for sheer quality and bowling me over, and I've said it's in my top kind of 3 fragrances. I would say Mem. I think it's definitely the highest quality fragrance out of all ones we've tried today. But I know Mouchoir de Monsieur has a special place in my heart. It's one of the fragrances which got me interested in fragrance. In that I thought, wow, this does smell. It just transported me to this Belle Epoque kind of dandy. It really gave me such a strong image. But yet I still think it's so beautiful. I still think it's really wearable, and I really love it. So I would find it. I think actually, if I'm going to be strict and pick one, it's Mouchoir de Monsieur.
Yeah, it's a masterpiece, isn't it?
Yeah.
And really, without having Jiki here, we both have Jiki, we both have Rive Gauche, things like that. But actually, Jiki is where it started, and Mouchoir in 1904. And without those guys, none of this would probably be here. We wouldn't be here.
No,
because our great grandfathers would not have met
such an interesting genre. I think we've got a really wide range. I'm sure the people will suggest lots of other Fougeres that they love.
And please do. Comment underneath.
But anyway,
he smells really
good. Until next time.
Happy
sniffing.
See you soon.